my ticket for the long way round. 2 bottle whiskey for the way, and I sure would like some sweet company. And I'm leaving tomorrow, Wednesday, when I'm gone.
What's up, guys? Jay Sway here, coming at you from my new apartment in Madison. I'm no longer in the dorms, so you guys don't get to look at all that stuff behind me. But anyway, last time I alluded to kick drum synthesis in Logic. I'm going to stray a little bit from that today, and I'm going to talk about kick drum triggering, or drum triggering in general. But specifically, we're going to look at kind of beefing up a kick drum with a sine wave synthesizer. So what I used to do for this is just have a test oscillator in Logic, play a sine wave that was kind of gated. It was gated by a noise gate, which was sidechained to the kick drum stem. So whenever the kick drum played, it would let this burst of a sine wave through. That's all fine and good, but I felt like I didn't have enough control over the pitch. And I mean, the gate's okay, but I think a synthesizer gives you more control. So what I have pulled up here is a song off of Chalk's upcoming album Before the Rain, and it's got no vocals in it, this song, but it's a good demonstration. So in the white tracks here are the drum tracks, and you can see I've already done this by this trigger here, but we're going to go ahead and make it on our own. So the goal here is to get MIDI information for a synthesizer out of this audio information. So how are we going to do that? Well, if we double click let me zoom in on all of it here. So the key here is that you're going to need stems for the whole track in order to do this, right? It's going to be a pain if you have a bunch of little pieces. So if you're, this is generally for like if you tracked a drummer for a whole song and you have these. If you did this, well, I guess if you did this electronically, you wouldn't need MIDI information because you already have it. But yeah, so if you have this stem for the duration of the whole song, just double click on it to pull it up in the sample editor. And then we're going to go over to Factory here and go Audio to MIDI Groove Template. So right away we see we're going to get MIDI information from audio, so that's great. And this is the same process that Logic does when you use the quantization tab over here to make a groove template. It's just that now we're going to get a MIDI file out of it. So before we do this, let's go ahead and make a software instrument so we can dump this MIDI file into it. So with this track highlighted in the arrange window, we're going to go ahead and hit use on this audio to MIDI screen. The only thing is that there are like different parameters here to try to fine-tune what Logic thinks is a note and the duration and limits on velocity and stuff like that, but I couldn't find certain parameters that would give you this to work, so we're going to have to try to fix what this thing spits out once we hit use. So go ahead and hit use, and in our new software instrument track there is this MIDI file that is muted, so we'll go ahead and unmute it, and we'll also look at it here. So double click on it, it'll bring it up in piano roll, and we see that there are notes that shouldn't be there. So it's quantizing on a 16th note basis, so it gives you 16th notes no matter what was happening on this one. It's just that when there is a kick drum hit, if I zoom in here, they're longer. This guy's longer than that, and also the velocity is higher. So we're going to exploit those two facts. Real kick drum hits on here are longer and they're higher velocities to filter out all the stuff we don't want. So what do I mean by filter out? We have unwanted notes here. So I just hit play, you're going to hear what I mean. So I really hope those aren't all kick drum hits. Let's hear it with the kick drum. Okay, so it definitely has a lot. It has the kick drum hits, but there's more than just the kick drum hits, right? So let's go ahead and we're going to use the transform tool, I guess, the transform window, and you can pick any one of these just to bring up the window. So for example, just pick velocity limiter. Now that we have the transform window up, we're going to need to make our own transform kind of preset. So open up the preset, click create initialize user set, and you can rename it if you want. It's fine if you don't, just hit create. Now what we're going to have to do here is say we want to pick the notes. So we want to find notes that are less than or equal to, say, 9, some small velocity, right? So these purple ones, we want to get rid of them because they're just noise. So we'll hit select only, and sure enough, it selects the ones that we want to delete. So we'll click on the piano roll and we'll hit delete. So the key there is just that we're just using this to kind of select what we want to delete, right? We're not using it to like change the velocity, crescendo, anything like that. We're just using it to kind of select the ones that we want. So there's still noise here. If I hit play, you're going to be like, well, there's still hits that aren't supposed to be there. All right, it's still noise. So those ones have a higher velocity, maybe because the gate isn't doing a perfect job, or I don't know why. The quantization that we did, like I said, just wasn't, it's glitchy, right? So we'll let all velocities through since we already kind of exploited that aspect. Now let's look at the short ones. So we'll go all notes that are less than or equal to, say, 10 or 9 bits in length. So there we get not all of them, but some of them. So we're just going to hope that this works. Click on the piano roll and hit delete. Now let's hear it if that worked. I mean, I can't really hear the piano, but it looked like they line up right with the kick drums, right? So this is how we're going to filter them. So if you use the transform window and select the small velocities and small and short length notes to delete them, you can use the groove template to get the triggered information. And the key to this is that these acoustic drums are not quantized, right? They're a little ahead of the beat, a little behind the beat, so you can't just go ahead and like put in 16th notes or the same rhythm that's matched up to the grid, because the drums aren't matched up to the grid. So this kind of guarantees that that our trigger is going to be right on with each transient. All right. So now that we have our MIDI information, that's probably the hardest part, and you could probably go through that a few times if you didn't get what I was doing. So now let's go ahead and lengthen each note here by hitting Control A and then just kind of dragging it out a little bit so we can hear what's going on. Alright, so we have the MIDI information, and the song is also in B minor, so we'll go ahead and put it on a B here. It doesn't matter which one, really. Alright, so now we're going to want to pull up a synthesizer. You could use the ES2 in Logic, but I'm going to use Massive because a lot of people have it, and it's really, really user-friendly. I'm going to go and pull up a mono instance because it's a sine wave that we're going to want to be making here. So that's not, we don't want the bass to be, you know, really wide in the stereo spectrum, so in the stereo field. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull up a sine wave here on the tables, on the wave tables. Turn it all the way to sine, and we're going to want to go down a couple octaves because I have it on, like, you know, B2 or something like that. So let's go to 24, see how that sounds. We'll put a little bit of distortion just for like a saturation, and we'll turn it up. I mean, that already sounds like it's in the ballpark, right? So that's almost a sound that you would get with a sine wave and a gate. If you're fine with that and you know how to do a sine wave that's gated and sidechained, go ahead and do that. But the cool thing about using the synthesizer now is you have all these envelopes to mess with now, right? All these LFOs and stuff. So let's go ahead and use this envelope to modulate the pitch on our oscillator. So now I have the pitch going down whenever this envelope opens up. So We want it to start at a higher pitch and kind of give you a hit, and then go down in pitch after that. All right? And then since we don't want to hear that kind of release up pitch part, we're going to make the release long. Okay? Let's hear how that sounds, and we'll fine tune it. That sounds pretty good to me. So you see the benefit of having these envelopes. You can do pitch modulation, and that's actually how you synthesize full drums in, say, like a dance song. You use pitch modulation. Right? So this is just the body of the kick that we would be synthesizing. So let's go ahead and hear the kick drum with and without. It really adds that low end, and it's kind of the last taste of the kick drum that you get, that kind of aftertaste, if you will, the sine wave that you just kind of feel more than hear. So let's hear it in context of the whole drum kit. I'm going to pull up the mixer here and solo the drums, and I'll mute this guy. So I'll show you without and then with again. So already it sounds a lot fuller, and the fact that the synthesizer is tonal, that it's playing the root note of the song, really gives us all the other instruments something to sit on. Okay, so I hope this helps. It took me a while to figure out how to get MIDI information like that from just audio files that weren't quantized already. So this really helps beef up kind of authentic drum playing. So I hope this helps, and next time I'll talk about synthesizing full kick drums, even the attack and all that, using massive also metronome and a lot of other synthesizers that people are using these days. So until next time, I'll invite you back to my new apartment, and thanks for watching.
Ticket for the long